Welcome to On and Off the Mic with Mike Corey.
I grew up watching Sean McDonough call Boston Red Sox games on TV. He was one that I looked up to as I wanted to get into the sportscasting industry. I'll never forget, as a young kid, I wrote him a letter, and he wrote me back with some great advice. We finally met up way back in 2003, and we've known each other ever since. And now we work together on ESPN. Sean's got an unbelievable and dry sense of humor, which you'll find right away from our conversation, and it's always enjoyable when you get to talk to him. I don't know what's been going on like this off season. Like, what do you do? Because like I sometimes I try to figure it out, and you're working on stuff. I don't know. Do you have anything major going on, or what have you been up to? I guess
I'm doing some Red Sox games on their regional radio network here around New England. They called me last winter and asked me if I'd be interested in coming back and doing some games, and I certainly wasn't interested in taking on a full schedule at this stage in my life. I kind of enjoyed the leisurely summer that I have. So they said you can do as many or as few as you want. You can pick which games you do. So I think I'm doing 30 to 35, somewhere in that range. Most of them home games against, the Yankees and the Dodgers when they were here, the Houston Astros. So it's been a lot of fun. Just typically the last few years, with my ESPN arrangement, once we get past the beginning of April, I really don't have anything until Labor Day weekend. And when football starts, and I've enjoyed that, but to have a little bit to do in the summer has been fun, and especially because it's the Red Sox, even though they're not having the season people anticipated.
Yeah, they'll get there. Hey, it's a long year. It's. I think this is one of those years, right, where there maybe could be like that second best team. You still get the wild card or whatever, but you're probably not going to, catch the Yanks at this point. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think they will. They are having one of those years where nothing seems to go right, and they can't really maintain any momentum. Every time they play a good game, it seems like they turn around and play a game or two that's not very good, which is a lot different from last year when, almost from the very beginning of the season, it just looked like it was a magical year and they were going to find a way to win every night. This year you're wondering when they're going to make the bad play or throw the bad pitch, or, they anticipate that they won't come up with the clutch hit. And that's been what's been happening more often than not.
Yeah. It's going to be pretty fun, though, like you said, now being able to do, the games you want to do and enjoy the summer. Because, I know you've done them all. I grew up watching you, back in New England when I was growing up. So, and you probably, I guess you probably have to say the same thing everybody else says when you're doing it. It's like, well, I had the other part of the year off, but not really, because you were doing a lot of stuff. So, it takes a different kind of person, I think, to be doing an entire 162 game baseball season, or pretty much as many of those as possible, right? What is that like?
I don't know how guys do that now. The games are so long, they're so slow. It's really a challenge. As I said, I'm doing 30 to 35 Red Sox games, and I'm really enjoying it. But if I was doing 150 or 160, I don't think I'd be enjoying it anywhere near as much. It really is a grind. I think that's why a lot of the baseball announcers don't do anything else during football or basketball season, because you just want to sit down and not do anything after going through a baseball season. So I've really enjoyed it. When the Red Sox approached me last winter about coming back and doing some of these radio games, now I'm at the stage in my life where I just want to do things because I think it would be fun. And I really thought, this would be fun. Joe Castiglione, who I've been doing the games with, who has been doing it for 37 years. He's a legend, certainly here in New England, and a wonderful guy. And he's been a friend for a long time, so I knew that part would be fun. And, the season's been a little disappointing in terms of the wins and losses. They came back, off a 118-win season with essentially the same team, and 119 wins, I think it was, with essentially the same team. I think the expectation was that they'd have another great year, and it's really been kind of a struggle from the very beginning. But there's still a lot of talent there. There's still time to get it turned around.
Yeah, and you've lived right outside of Boston pretty much for, well, I don't know, you tell me, is that all the time? Have you been anywhere else?
We're here in the summer. I grew up in Boston, obviously the Boston area, lived here my whole life. And 4 winters ago, we decided that we couldn't do winter in Boston anymore. So the last 4 winters were spent in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I think that will be winter from now on. It's awesome out there, and just a great place to live. Really high quality of life. The weather's beautiful almost the entire time that I'm there. So it's a great setup. It's basically 6 months in the Boston area now and 6 months in Arizona, and it's, to me, the best of both worlds.
Yeah, Arizona's awesome. I don't think people really understand like what it's like out there. I mean, you have everything, and there's like, name all the cities. You know what I mean? Right around that whole, I guess, kind of Phoenix area, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, you tell me.
Yeah, it's awesome. I have friends of mine here in Boston who ask me how I like it, and I always say Arizona is good if you like perfect. If you don't like perfect, then you're probably not going to like Arizona. But if you like perfect, you'll like Arizona because it's perfect. I mean, the people are great, very laid back. It's, as I said, the weather's great. The time we're there, I'm not sure I'd want to be there in the middle of the summer when it's 112. But, being in Boston when it's 90 and humid isn't in bargain either. So I don't think the summer is as bad out there as some perceive it to be. I have two brothers who lived out there for several summers. My brother Ryan and his wife and family still live there in the summer. So it's not that bad. You just come to accept it as the reality. But I love everything about it. And it's a beautiful state. The mountains are beautiful. Obviously, there's the Grand Canyon. There's a lot of, we've explored a couple of different lakes. And, I just think, if you drive from where we are up to Las Vegas or up to Los Angeles, you see a lot of really pretty parts of the world. So, it's been great. And, we really consider it home now as much as Boston. I never thought I'd say that.
Yeah, no, it's a great golf out there too, man. Right? I mean, that's
another reason why I'm out there. It's a chance to aggravate myself for several more months out of the year. My brother Ryan once asked me when he moved to Phoenix, he said, "You know what? I get invited to play golf a lot out here." Ryan's never really been a golfer, maybe one or two times a year, but he's never really taken it up. And he said, "Should I learn how to play golf?" And I said, "Well, if you want to spend a lot of time and a lot of money to aggravate the crap out of yourself, then yeah, it's a great idea." But so he is not a golfer, but I am, and I guess I enjoy the aggravation because I love it, and very fortunate to belong at a wonderful club out in Arizona, Whisper Rock, with amazing people, and it's a fun place. We have a lot of touring pros who belong there, so you show up every day and you see a lot of pros walking around, and they just blend in with the rest of us regular folk. And so, yeah, I love golf. It's definitely probably the thing, the hobby, if you will, that I spend the most time on. I should be better than I am, but that would require practice, which I have neither the patience nor interest in. So I'm one of those people who, runs up to the course, runs to put my shoe on, jams food into my face, hits about 3 practice balls, and goes and plays.
Okay, so you don't really get to the range. you're kind
of going.
Not a
lot. Okay. No, not a lot. I'm not a big, let's sit up there on the range for an hour and just pound those. I do take lessons, but I find that makes me even worse, despite the excellent instruction that I have access to. I kind of can manage my bad habits that I have now. It's when I try to fix them that it seems to get worse. So I'm happy in my little mediocre world, and I think I'm destined to stay there.
No, it's like, does it get to you with like everybody, always talking to you about their rounds and what they shot and what they did? Oh yeah, 82 yesterday.
Yeah.
Kind of like, who cares?
We have a trip with 16 guys every May out to Arizona. It's one of the reasons why I got interested in living out there. We have been going to Scottsdale now for 15 years. Jay Billis is the captain of one team, and I'm the captain of the other. We do like an 8-on-8 Ryder Cup style thing. And the first few years we moved it around, and then the third or fourth year we went to Scottsdale, and everybody just raved about the courses and the weather and the hotel. And you're not going to get rained on, which is nice because if you're in Myrtle Beach or West Palm Beach or some of the other places we went, you're probably going to get rained on with a thunderstorm in the afternoon or something like that. So anyway, we've been out there for a long time, and a buddy of mine who comes on the trip, John Bruning, gave me a T-shirt one time that he got in the pro shop of one of the courses, probably Greyhawk, and it says, "No one cares what you shot." And I think that is a great thing to wear, it's like other things. No one cares about your fantasy football team.
Right.
There are other things that I think are in the similar category, but nobody wants to sit there and hear. And then on the second hole, I hit a lousy drive, and I had to chip it out, and then I missed a 4-foot putt. It was a really hard lip out, and I should have made a 5, but I really made a 6. It's like no one cares. Just stop right now.
Right. Exactly. There's a Seinfeld part he does at a stand up where he says nobody wants to go to your wedding. He's like they don't. You sit there and you put in the invitation, like you're like, oh man, this person's gonna be upset if I don't bring that. Like, no, they're not. Like they don't care.
Yeah. It's one of the great things about most of my professional life, working on weekends, as you do. Well, football games are always, Saturday or Sunday generally, almost always. And, a lot of the basketball we do is on weekends. And, obviously when I was doing the Red Sox games, for all those years on TV here, we did a lot of weekend games. So you kind of had a built-in excuse for things that, not just weddings, but graduations and, first communions and things that you really didn't necessarily want to go to. You had the built-in excuse. I think Marv Albert wrote a book, and I think the title of it was "I'd Love to, but I have a game." Or somebody wrote a book that had, and I think that was such a great title of a book for somebody in our business because a lot of times it's true. I mean, a lot of times you really would love to. Our colleague and dear friend Beth Mullins just got married this summer out in San Diego, and I really wanted to go. I mean, I sincerely did. And but I was in London with the Red Sox doing those games that they played over against the Yankees. So that happens. But if it is the occasion when you really don't want to go, it is nice to have a built-in excuse.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Right. It's like, I think the people know if you're going to get married in the fall, like, don't even bother, because we're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah. I shouldn't tell this story, but I once said to someone who invited me to her wedding, I have a game, so I can't be at that wedding, but I'll be at the next one.
Yes, exactly. I know, right?
Which has not yet turned out to be true. The marriage that I did not attend is over, but there has not been a next wedding yet. So,
okay, but you're ready for it. You're waiting. So, see, you
already
do.
Sometimes the result of the marriage is predictable, particularly the short-lived nature of it. Unfortunately, I've been invited to a few weddings and had some friends who, you just said, this isn't going to last, 3 years, 5 years. And sure enough, that is usually the case. So it's sad. Not that we wish this upon anybody, we don't. But sometimes when you think to yourself, these two people can't go a day without screaming and yelling at each other, what is it going to be like when they're actually married? So right. Sometimes it's predictable.
Man, it's crazy today, right? I mean, think about all the stuff, I don't know, that's going on. I mean, all the social media and the phones and everything's so immediate. You know what I mean? You've gone through the times that we all have now where, there wasn't any of that, and you forget what it's like because, you're so mired in the stuff that's happening today. And sometimes you just want to say, I don't want to deal with this. You know what I mean? But
yes.
It's tough.
Well, I'm not a social media person. I mean, I've never had Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, any of those things. I know I'm probably a caveman relative to the rest of modern civilization, but I just don't have any interest in it. And I know people will say, well, Twitter, it can help you do your job. You could use it to do research or whatever, keep up with breaking news. And that is probably true. But I don't know. I just think in a lot of ways, our civilization was a little kinder and gentler, to borrow a phrase, when we didn't have all of this stuff. A lot of these things seem to be used to, disparage people who oftentimes we don't even know. And, and then the phone thing, how many times you out to dinner and there's 4 or 5 people sitting there and everybody is texting away and reading their phone and nobody's talking to each other. Do you even talk to anybody on the phone anymore? I mean, I'm at the point now when my phone rings, it almost startles me because nobody calls to chat anymore. They just text you what they need to text you. And, and if your home phone rings, if you still have one of those, which I do, I never answer that because invariably it's somebody trying to sell you something that you don't want. So, it's I think it's kind of sad. We don't talk to each other anymore. I like hearing people's voices on the phone and hearing them laugh or whatever, sigh, whatever it might be. Rather than a lot of times on texting, it's hard to figure out somebody's tone. Sometimes it can lead you to misinterpret what they're saying to you, or what them to misinterpret what you're saying to them. And I'm a big offender of this too now. I've become way more of a texter than I should be. So, I wish we'd spend more time talking to each other rather than looking down at our phones and pecking away.
I totally hear you. It's great just talking to you like this now. I mean, normally,
this is the most I've talked on my phone probably in a month.
Join our friends from the Delaware Kids Fund and Harvey Hanna and Associates for the 10th Annual Delaware Kids Fund 5K in Newport, Delaware on Saturday, August 3rd to help fight childhood hunger. To register and for full info, visit dekidsfund.org.
Here's the other thing. When you do get a call from somebody, right, they're in their car, because they're like, this is the time I got to call somebody.
Exactly right. And they say, I'm calling you because I can't text. I'm in the car and I don't want to text while I'm driving. So that's the only reason they're calling is, they're acknowledging they would otherwise be texting if they could, but they don't want to jeopardize their own safety or those around them. So, calling on the phone, we kind of have a rule. If you and I text back and forth two or three times, now we're having a conversation. And it's probably easier and more efficient. I think it's easier to talk more quickly, at least it is for me, than to sit there and try to text more quickly. So I usually at that point will pick up the phone and call that person, since I now think, it's okay to say, to text somebody, hey, running a little late, see you in 5 minutes. But, if you're going to have a lengthier conversation, to me, it still makes a lot more sense to have that vocally, rather than by a text.
Right. No, I agree. But and then what if somebody calls to you to talk to you about their golf game? And now you're like, great. I don't want to do this.
Yeah. Well, but that is, I think caller ID is a great invention, because we all have the friends or relatives who there's no way you can get off the phone in less than 20 minutes if you answer the phone with this particular person. So you have to make the judgment. Okay, do I have 20 minutes? And do I really want to get involved in this right now? Because there's no way this is going to be less than 20 minutes. So that part of it is helpful. I think the caller ID is a good thing.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. Well, I mean, hey, just so you were saying before, it's like Verizon. Remember when they made the switch to you used to have to pay for minutes, and it was all about the minutes, and then talking at night, and after 9 and whatever. Now they're like, screw that. Talk as much as you want. We're data. You pay for data now. We don't care about how people talk.
Exactly right.
Like that was.
And I am such a technological fan. I just switch my phone and I'm trying to figure out what some of these things do and how to do. They tell you all the great features that your phone has, and then you have to pay attention while they're sort of explaining it to you, but they really don't want to explain it to you in detail because they pretty much already sold you the phone, and now they're just killing time that they could be talking to somebody else who's in the store there. So, I have to kind of know how to use my phone. It's sort of like my golf game. I don't have the time or the interest in taking the time to really get better at it. So I just use the parts of the phone that I understand, and probably I'm cheating myself that there's other really cool things I could be doing if I actually knew what I was doing.
Do you have an iPhone? What do you have?
I have an iPhone XS. Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's the newest one.
I had an iPhone 7, and that kept breaking. The antenna was bad, and then the port got damaged, I guess, from plugging it in and out all the time. That I couldn't charge it anymore. So then I had to go, and I liked this because it was similar size to my previous phone, from what they told me. So that part I could compare. But the camera's better. I'm not a huge picture taker, but the camera's better. And when you go to London, where I just was not too long ago, and you actually want to take pictures, you realize, this camera's it's an iPhone 7, no offense to Apple. But this camera is clearly better, and it has more battery life, which is good. I think my old phone is that if you charge it fully, it should last about 14 hours. I think this one's closer to 20, so that's good.
Yeah. You got to call in.
I'm sure you've worked with the people in the booth, the other announcer who, wants to, one of the primary things that you do when you work with Dick Vitale is you help him charge his phone. He is a serial phone charger. I mean, he is. If they had phone chargers anonymous, Dick would have to go because he is. That phone is constantly charged because he tweets all the time. You know, if you like accidentally burp sitting next to Dick, he'd say, "Could you do that again? I want to tweet that." You know, and I'm like, "Okay, Dick, whatever." So it's. I love working with Mr. Vitale. He is a legend in every sense of the word, on and off the air. But with the phone charging, he has an issue with charging phones.
So what was it like before all this happened? Like, because you obviously worked in them way back before.
Life was good. But when I was in college, and I'm coming up on my 35th anniversary at Syracuse in September, which I cannot believe. But you know, when I was in school, you had your phone in your room. But say I said, you know, I'm going to meet you at so-and-so's pizza place at 8 o'clock. You know, once you kind of headed down there, you were committed to go because, you know, you had, or the people you were supposed to meet better show up too because they had no way to tell you that they weren't coming.
Right.
Now it's so easy to bail out of things because, you know, it's no big deal. Hey, sorry, something came up. I'm not going to make it. See you later. You know, back in those days, wait a minute. I'm sitting here. Where are you? What do you mean you're not, you know, you had no way to tell somebody you weren't coming. So I think people were much more committed to their itinerary once they established it because there was no real way to turn back.
Right. Accountability. Yeah. You had to call like the phone in your apartment or whatever it was. It's like press 1 for Sean, 2 for Bob, 3 for so-and-so. You know what I mean? That's it.
I don't know. I don't mean to be like the angry old guy who, you know, is mad that the wheel was invented because I am in favor of progress, but I'm not sure some of this stuff really represents progress. And I think for as much as it is progress in some ways, it's detrimental to our quality of life as a society in other ways.
I'm with you. And same thing with the broadcasting. It's like you want to do the game, and like, and I thought this for the longest time. Like when I'm on the air, I'm on the air. Like I will just tell you what I want to say on the air. Why am I tweeting, or why do I have to do this in the middle of the game? Like, I'm talking to you about it. You know, it's like crazy.
And you know, like I've worked with people who check their name, whatever you call that. You punch your name in your mentions, I guess it is.
Yeah, mentions. People can tweet it.
And then they get really upset when people tell them they suck, pardon my language. But can you say that on a podcast? I don't usually
you can say whatever
use
you want.
language like that.
You can. That's why we do this.
But people get really upset. And I don't think to myself, because I've said to a couple of them, why are you reading that? You know, it's not before this inventive Twitter existed. These same people probably sat in their living room or wherever they're watching, either thought you stunk or you're great or you're mediocre or whatever, and you had no way of knowing and you didn't care then. So why do you care now? And people let it affect them. Sometimes they answer it. Yeah, I did a golf tournament one time where one of the other announcers said, "I know people think I was rough on Tiger Woods a few holes ago," and you know what is that code for? It's not even code. It's just blatantly saying, I'm reading on Twitter that I'm getting hammered for saying something critical about Tiger Woods. So now I want to dial it back or correct it or defend it or whatever it is. I mean, you're blatantly responding to Twitter on the air. And now, you know, to me, it's a distraction more than I keep my phone in front of me. I will check my text messages during the game because I have a lot of really smart friends and insightful friends relative to sports and broadcasting. And, you know, sometimes I will make a mistake. I know this is shocking to you, Mike, but I make a ton of mistakes. And it's shocking in this day and age of texting how much you learn in real time that you just made a mistake. But friends of mine will say, you know, something like, hey, the reason they didn't replay that play was they recovered their own fumble, idiot, or something like that. It was pretty obvious on the replay. I'm like, oh, God, I didn't notice that. So, you know, there are times when it's helpful. So I will occasionally look at my phone, but, you know, to be on Twitter and be obsessed with what people are saying about you in real time, oh God, I think the job is difficult enough without letting that add to it.
Right. No, and exactly. I mean, we did this tournament the other day. It was funny. I was out in Louisville. It was the largest women's basketball tournament in the world, actually. There's like over 11,000 players, 1,000 teams. Every college coach in the country is there. And we were doing some stuff on the internet, these shows. And we had some guy tweet at me or the crew and was like, oh, he was disgusted with something. And our whole staff was like, no, well, that's not right. We got to talk about this. And they're like, hey, I'll tweet back at him and say this for you. I'm like, no. I'm like, guys, there's 15,000 people here. Like, we could only hope that we have one person who thinks we suck or there's a problem. You know what I mean? It's like, are you kidding me? You don't understand. Like, you,
right. I just don't. I don't have the time or the interest, and I honestly don't think that I'm interesting enough that people really care. I'm at so-and-so restaurant having a turkey sandwich right now. I mean, well, really? How did civilization exist for all those years without access to information like that? I don't know. Twitter can be a lot more, and other social media can be a lot more useful than that, meaningful than that. But I've managed to make it this far without being on Twitter, and I will continue to. And I acknowledge that there are many good things about it as well.
You have done very well to not have to dive into this. Hey, you said
it's kind of mysterious. Like when you're in our business and you don't have Twitter at all, people say, "I tried to find you on Twitter." I said, "Well, you're not going to." But it's kind of mysterious,
Yeah.
He's on TV and he doesn't do Twitter. Reese Davis, because he knows that I basically, unfortunately, say things that I shouldn't say sometimes. I have the tendency to blurt stuff out. And then think later. He told me one time that he would pay me to do Twitter.
Oh my god!
Because I think he thinks it would be a train wreck, and that he would enjoy watching. But I just I would get caught up in firing back at people, and I don't want to do that either.
Yeah, no, don't need to get involved.
I just stay in my little Twitterless cocoon, and again, I want to acknowledge that there are many positive uses and many ways that people serve society in a uplifting sort of way through Twitter and other social media, but it's just not for me.
And when you go back,
I'm not trying to be sarcastic with that. There are very good uses of it, and
I'm with
in
you.
our business. There's a lot of people who use it to promote. Hey, I'm doing this game tonight. Tune in. I think from a business standpoint, that helps. Us as individual broadcasters and the companies that we work for, when we can use it to drive people to content and that sort of thing.
I tell you, I really have tried to do that, in respect to that, because I don't really sit there and comment a lot on things. Like, I don't think anybody really cares what I think of LeBron and whatever, you know what I mean? So the stuff I'm doing is more of a, behind the scenes of the players or in the broadcast crew or, the stuff that I think would be somewhat interesting to people that have never seen something like that before or behind the scenes at or a team or a player. That's kind of cool, So I feel like I've tried to use it in a respect where
that is cool. I do college football with Holly Rowe. She's our sideline partner. Yeah. She does a lot of that stuff. We'll finish meeting with a player or coach or something, and she said, do you mind if I ask you 2 or 3 quick questions on Twitter? And I think that's great. But I don't do it.
No, she does a great job. We got a great crew,
apparently she's very good at Twitter, and there are a lot of people. Jay Billis, I really think he has enhanced his popularity greatly. He has 1 million Twitter followers, I think, which is crazy. But some people use it very well, very creatively. I just, as I said, don't have much interest.
I'm with you. Hey, 35 years.
Plus, I would get myself in trouble. I mean, that's really the biggest. It's really self-preservation because years and years and years ago now when Twitter first started, as you may know, I don't know if you were at ESPN yet, but the PR people said, we'd really like the on-air people to do this Twitter thing. I didn't even try to know what it was the first time I heard somebody there mention it. And then I sort of understood what it was. And then I said to them, can you fire us for something that we tweet? And they said, yes, we can. I said, okay, well, why would I walk down that road if I don't have to? Now, I don't think I would because we've had 1 or 2 people who I think have moved on because of the way they used Twitter, but they, I think it was repeated violations of what ESPN would have liked from somebody tweeting. But yeah, I mean, you can get yourself in trouble. Why run the risk?
Yeah, you're like, why would I add something that gives me an opportunity to not put myself in a good position here?
Yeah. And it
that.
just doesn't seem, again, I've had very limited exposure to it, but it does seem that in a lot of ways it kind of skews toward the negative. So why do you want to dwell on the negative? You've known me for a long time, Mike. I'm a happy, upbeat kind of guy who like to dwell on the positives. So I don't want to spend my time in something that might skew a little negative.
Hey, let's. I
don't want to spend it. Now we've talked about Twitter for 20 minutes, right?
No,
so there you go. I'm a hypocrite. Go ahead, bash me on Twitter. He's a hypocrite. He wants nothing to do with Twitter. He just talked about Mike Corey's podcast for 20 minutes.
They can't find you. They can't tweet at you. It's great. They'll tweet at me instead.
Well, they can tweet to the rest of the world, though.
Right.
And that's fine. See, I'm fine with that. I don't have to know about it. That's fine. But to read it at halftime like, you stink, you're the most biased person ever, what you said was idiotic, I can't believe you have a job. And I've looked at people who have read these things at halftime of the game, and you can just see, like, all the air come out of them. And it's a total distraction as they go back to doing their job.
What a
like I said, I'm not going to talk about Twitter ever again. That's it. And I have no problem with it. There's people who love it, use it very well. It can be awesome. It's not for everyone. It's not for me anyway.
What a subjective business we live in.
What else do you want to talk about Twitter?
I can't wait. I'm gonna put this.
Like, if I did do Twitter, this would be perfect, right? Because I can use Twitter to prove how juvenile I am, as I'm doing on your podcast right now.
Well, this is going to go on Twitter, so people will see. They're going to hear it.
Oh, jeez. And now I have no chance, because obviously the people who watch this or listen to this on Twitter they're Twitter people. So now it's going to be like I'm attacking their thing. So I am just going to be savaged over this now.
I just stole your. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Can't wait for the start of football season now.
No, as I said, I have nothing. It's great for a lot of people who use it very well. Like you. I mean, you're showing behind the scenes with the crew and at the events you're doing. That's instructive and entertaining.
How else do the public hear from the other side of Sean McDonough if they don't get it through this? They only know you from TV.
Well, on the Red Sox game the other night, we had a rain delay where we talked about just about everything except baseball. So every now and then, you get opportunities like that. People's podcasts. I like to do the podcast. You never know really what you're going to talk about. I think it gives people a chance to hear other parts, perhaps, of your personality that they don't get exposed to necessarily when you're on the air doing a game. And you have this opportunity over and over and over again. Because no offense, Mike, every single person breathing today on the planet has their own podcast.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
including you. I thought you and I were the only ones who didn't have a podcast. Now I know you have a podcast, so I think I am officially the only person on earth who does not have his or her own podcast.
Oh man,
and it's fine. It's totally fine, and I probably will be the last holdout on that too.
It's because you got to go play golf. You have better things to do.
Exactly. Let's get to important things.
I didn't even ask you.
People don't want to know, like, what's your favorite stadium you ever did a game from? I mean, come on.
I don't ask those questions. I know you don't.
Well, I know that, and I'm very grateful to you that you don't. I mean, if you can, I will answer it. But I usually change the answer every time to stuff like that, just to amuse myself, thinking, okay, if people really listen to all these podcasts and they're keeping track of, wait a minute, when he was on Dan Schulman's podcast, he said Cameron Indoor Stadium was his favorite. Now he just told Mike Corey that the Carrier Dome was the best. Keep his answers straight. So I do
who
that.
Cares?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, way back when, before you were born, probably, when I was doing the baseball for CBS, before the postseason, they'd ask, the PRP would say, we'd like you to do a bunch of these radio talk shows around the country, and to promote our coverage of the playoffs and the World Series. Of course, I'll do them. So you do a lot of them, and invariably, every single one of them ask you at the end, well, who do you like in the series? And half the time I would pick one team, and half the time I would pick the other. Really just to amuse myself and see if there's anybody out there. Wait a minute. I just turned 15 minutes ago on a different show, and you picked the other team. So, anyway.
And I know I'm going to be the ultimate hypocrite. And we talked about you don't care about what you shoot, but I didn't even ask you what you shoot. For golf, like what
in
range?
Golf?
Yeah, so I can kind of.
Right now is 10. So, but I'm a dangerous 10 because I have the 2 or 3 blow up holes. Like the other day, I shot 87, but in a tournament, the senior club championship at my club, which makes me feel so old. I mean, it's 50 plus, so there's a low age bar there. At least when you're 57, you think 50's young. But I had a 9 on one hole and 2 7s. So you take those 3 out. So that's why I'm a danger. I'm good at match play because for 15 or 16 holes, I'm going to make a par or birdie or probably a bogey at the worst. It's the other 3 or 4 that always blow up my score.
But that's what always happens, right? Most of the time people say,
but it happens every single time.
Right.
I think golf would be better, and I have proposed many rules changes to golf that would make it better. One of them is at the end of the round, you should get to throw out 3 holes.
Right.
It's a 15-hole sport. You get to choose. I'm throwing out these 3 holes. Like I think when you play
like
blackjack at a casino or something, like if you bust, like you go to 24, you can say, okay, I get to give 1 card back. I'm going to give the 4 back, and now I have 20.
I could have
the games. I think about a lot of games that I know of that could be better with a few simple rule changes like that.
Can you try to find a way to make college football games less than 4 hours? If you could do that, that'd be super good.
Yes, I do think stop the clock to move the chains is idiotic.
Ridiculous.
Now I know they're going real fast, and sometimes the people who are manning the chains maybe not be, they might not be Usain Bolt, but I would say unless the officials notice that the chains aren't set before the next snap, let's just keep the chain. Let's keep the clock running. Let's just move the chains.
I would agree.
That would be one simple thing.
You've got some polls. See if we can make some of that happen. Now, because you're not on.
When there are, all these plays now, they have 40 first downs and you have 93 first downs in a however long the game is.
Right.
60-minute game. Is it still 60 minutes? I've lost track.
Yeah.
So let's not stop the clock just to move the chains.
Yeah, I've got bad news here. Because you're not on Twitter, and because I'm new to Twitter, and because I'm still working on sponsors for this podcast here, we have like 30 seconds remaining in our session on this thing. So I'm like, how ridiculous?
Oh, we do.
Yeah. So like, I don't want to.
Sorry. Well, if you just want to delete all this nonsense and start over again, that's fine.
No, we need a whole other session.
We'll do it. We'll do it again down the road.
Let's do it. I would love that. This was a lot of fun. So,
well, it was my pleasure, Mike, and I'm happy for all your success. You're one of the really good people in our business, and I'm glad things are going so well for you.
Hey, same here. Thanks. I'll see you soon, and let's have a fun college football season.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Mike. Have a great day.
You got it. You too, man.
See you, man.
Make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss another episode. And you can follow Mike's travels all year long on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on the web at Mike Corey Sports.